Hello guys, everyone. In the last video we made a video about the collection framework introduction, what are the interfaces we have and the characteristics we discussed. So there we have seen collection is the parent interface for other interfaces. So now we'll discuss about the collection interface. Why it is important? Because all the methods which are declared inside the collection interface will be inherited to other interfaces, and the implement and the child classes have to implement those methods. That is the reason first we have to discuss about the collection interface. What are the things we have, we'll discuss now. Okay, so first, whenever we talk about the collection framework, it's all about storing the multiple data, unlimited data. We have to store the multiple data as well as which is endless. There is no limit. In that case we are going to collection framework. So for that we are going to discuss about this. Means first we need to store the data. To store the data, we have add method inside the collection interface. We have to pass the objects. It can be any kind of object. But for single object, it is for single object. For multiple objects, we have add all. We will be passing the collection object we have to pass. These are the two methods. The first method is add method. To add one single object, we have another method, that is add all. In order to add multiple objects in one single time, that is collection. Next, to check the data. After adding the data, we want to check the data. After adding the data, we want to check the data. For that, we have contains method. To check one single object, we have contains method. So we have to pass the object. At the same time, in order to check the multiple objects, so we have contains all. Where we have to pass the collection of objects together. To check the data, we have contains as well as contains all. Next, after checking the data, we might get a duplicate data. Then we want to remove that particular data, right? So to remove the data, we have remove method and we have to pass the object. To remove multiple objects, we have remove all, where we have to pass the collection. To remove one single object, we have remove method. To remove multiple objects, remove all we have. Next, if I want to remove the entire data at once, to remove data all at once, clear method we have. Clear method means if I call clear method, it will remove the entire objects inside the collection object. Next, after using clear method, we might have doubt if there is any data exists or not. In that case, to check the collection object, we have isEmpty method. isEmpty is very simple. If the collection doesn't have any data, it returns true. Means is it empty? It is asking like is it empty, like that. If the collection is having some data, then it returns false. Next, to access the data one by one, to access the data one by one, means I want to collect the data one by one. In that case, we have method called iterator. We have iterator. Okay. So in order to get the data one by one, we have iterator method. So these are the methods we have inside the collection interface. These methods, all these methods will be inherited to all the interfaces, and the implementation classes like we discussed array list, linked list, stack, queue, and tree set. All these classes has to implement the abstract methods which are present inside the collection interface. Now we'll see how the collection will be able to take the different types of data. In general, I am saying collection object can store heterogeneous data. It can store heterogeneous data, whereas arrays, we can see it will store homogeneous data. Means same kind of data can be stored in case of array concept. Suppose if I declare integer array, I can store only integers, I cannot store double value. But in case of collection object, I can store integer value, double value, string value, any kind of object also. That is possible in case of collection, that we are going to discuss now. Just now I told you how the collection object is able to store different types of data. We'll see now, and we'll try to understand how it is going to store the data of different data type inside the collection. So now you can see here we are using one of the collection object, that is array list object. Array list is the child of list interface. List is the child of collection. Means in simple words we can say array list is the grandchild of the collection. So all the methods which are present inside collection also present inside the array list also. So here I am using add method. Here you can observe we have integer value, we have float value, we have double value, we have string value, we have one object. How it is storing, we'll see now. Here I pass the integer value. Now this integer value is converted into non-primitive data type. It is converted into non-primitive data type. For all the primitive values, we have non-primitive data types. Those are called as wrapper classes. So for this integer value, it might use internally integer object. So it is using integer object. This two value is stored inside the integer object class. It is stored inside the integer object class. And then integer is the child of object class. So this object is upcasted to the object class. Object is the supermost class for every class. This two value is stored inside this object. Now this is the float value. Float value is stored inside the float wrapper class object. It is stored inside the float wrapper class object, that is 2.2. Now this float object is upcasted to object data type. It is stored inside the object data type, that is 2.2. Next we have another value, that is 2.5. 2.5 is stored inside the double value. It is stored inside the double wrapper class object. 2.5 is stored inside the double wrapper class object. It is upcasted to object class. 2.5. Now this is the string value. It is stored inside the string object. It is stored inside the string object. Here hello is stored. So now the string is upcasted to object class. So here hello will be there inside this object class. Next we have employee object. We have employee object. This employee object is also the child of the object class one, because whenever we create any class, it becomes by default the child of object class. So this employee class is upcasted to object data type. So now you can observe all the data is in the form of same data type now. So each and every data is converted into one common data type. This concept, this mechanism is called as generalization. This concept is called as generalization. So using the generalization concept, the collection objects is able to store heterogeneous data. Hope you like this video. Please share and subscribe.